Yo, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to my channel. I want to ask you guys a couple questions. Are you sick and tired of losing your aim duels? Are you sick and tired of being the first person to shoot but you still lose that fight? Don't worry, guys, I got you. This video is going to give you 5 tips on how you can improve your aim in a shorter period amount of time. Alright, let's get it to it. First off, before I get straight into it, I want to thank you guys for clicking on this video, taking some time out of your day to watch my content. If you like it, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you know when I upload the next video. And also, I want you guys to understand that you need to be patient with this process. You need to be patient with yourself because nothing is an overnight success. And just take your time. All right, so let's just get straight into tip number 1. Tip number 1 is picking the right sensitivity. Now, I'm sure you guys all know this is very important for any FPS games. With Apex Legends, I took a little bit of time to do some research on what the sensitivities and DPIs are for the pro streamers and the pro gamers. And on average, I'm gonna put it on the screen right now. On average, the DPI is mostly 400, and there were some 800s, there were some 1600s, but like, it's completely up to you. Whatever you like, whatever is comfortable for you. I put 400 DPI, and usually this also depends if you have a gaming mouse. If you have one, that's great. Mine is set to 400. It depends on you guys, whichever you like. And my sensitivity is like 2.7. And the average of the pro gamers and the pro streamers sensitivity is around 2.9, 3.0. For this tip, you guys need to give yourself some time to try out the sensitivities first before I tell you that you shouldn't change it and just leave it alone. So what you need to do is you can take what I put on the screen as like a reference to you guys. So you can get yourself a gaming mouse, set your DPI to 400, and set the sensitivity to 3. If it's too high for you, if it's too slow for you, you adjust it, you raise it up, or you lower it down. It's like I said, it's completely up to you. But the main point is to pick that right sensitivity and don't change it. Like, it all relates to muscle memory. Let's take basketball for example. Let's take Kobe for example. This guy, like you all know, Kobe Bryant, he's a legend in basketball, and he hits some really nutty shots. But the thing about that is he practices his shot every single day. He would like throw up 200 shots, 300 shots from 3-point line or mid-range, or whichever, like just perfecting his form. And that's the same with gaming. Like if you pick that right sensitivity and you just keep it at that, you don't touch it, and you play 500 games with it, eventually your brain is just going to get hardwired to that sensitivity, and you don't have to even think about if you're over flicking or under flicking, because I'm sure like after 500 games, at that point you're already used to your sensitivity and you'll be able to flick to enemies with no problems and just kick the living shit out of them. You know what I mean? Like, just pick the right sensitivity for you guys, and once you got it, just don't change it. All right, that's tip number 1. And moving on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is recoil patterns. Now, I used to play CSGO before, so I understand the concept of recoil patterns and spray patterns. Compared with Apex Legends, it's not that hard. Usually, you just have to drag down a little bit, and you'll already eventually get it. If you like to land in the hot zones and get into fights early, this is going to be very beneficial for you if you understand the recoil pattern. So usually when you get to your location, you can run to a gun, and most likely there's not going to be any barrel stabilizers, standard stock attachments, like as soon as you pick up the gun, because this isn't a situation where you know your enemy is close and you go to your spot, pick up the gun, and you immediately try and get into a fight. So this is what I mean by the recoil patterns. If you know this, if you understand this, you can easily win your aim duels, because you are going to be hitting more shots than your enemy, assuming your enemy doesn't understand the recoil patterns. If you have those 2 tips already, in the early game, you're already going to you're gonna start seeing improvement in your game. You're gonna start winning fights. You're gonna start winning aim duels. You're gonna hit people like it's no problem. This is gonna be very, very beneficial for you. So get on that training map. Pick whichever gun you like to use most. I recommend just understanding, not fully getting all the spray patterns. Just pick out some guns, and maybe the R301 if you like that, or the Flatline, Havoc, whichever gun you like. Try and grasp the concept, like understand the spray patterns, and you just mimic that in the opposite way. I'm gonna put up some clips right now. I put a little line drawing for you guys for you to understand what it would look like for R301, the R99, and the Flatline. These are just like a few examples I'm giving to you guys of what the recoil and the spray pattern look like. So that's tip number 2. Take the time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, get on that training map, pick up whichever gun you like, and get straight to it. Just hit the targets from long range, mid range, short range. It's completely up to you. You're definitely going to see a big improvement in your game. Now, let's move on to tip number 3. And tip number 3 is crosshair placement. Now, I'm going to split this into 2 parts: the short range and mid to long range. So with short range, let's say I'm gonna put a little clip for this right now. What you see there is me putting my crosshair away from the angle, because most likely people are just gonna run around the corner like it's nothing, straight up take the fight with you. In Apex Legends, they don't give a shit, man. So this is why I say with crosshair placement in short ranges, you just keep your crosshair away from the angle, and you're gonna get that first bullet accuracy. When you have that, you're already on track to hit the rest of your other bullets. Assuming you have your sensitivity at the right number and you're comfortable with the recoil patterns, then eventually you're gonna win that fight easily when you have that first bullet accuracy. Now moving on to mid-range and long range. What I mean by this is that when I started playing Apex Legends, what I learned from this game is that the bullets have a travel time. Like, let's take the longbow for example. If your enemy is running to the right, you place your crosshair a little bit ahead of him so that the bullet can travel and hit your enemy. That's what I mean by bullets having travel time. If your enemy is going to the left, same concept. You place it a little bit ahead of him, and your bullets are gonna hit. And it varies per gun, like G7 Scout, the Hemlock, even the Wingman. Like it varies from gun to gun. So you only usually get this through experience. So you just gotta grind the game, play the game as much as you can, try out as many guns, and you'll eventually understand the concept of crosshair placement per gun. That is crosshair placement for long range and mid range. Now moving on to tip number 4, and tip number 4 is tracking. Now basically what that means is tracking your enemy's movements while you're aiming down sights or you're hip firing. So I put this as number 4 because when you get used to your sensitivity, you understand the recoil patterns and the spray patterns of most of the guns, and you grasp the concept of crosshair placement. When you combine it together and put it with track shooting, you're gonna already see a major improvement in your fights. It's not gonna be as hard as it was for you before. When you combine all those 4 together, you're gonna hit your shots way more. You're gonna win your fights way faster and easier. This is why I put it as a tip number 4, and it's very beneficial for you to be able to do this. Not just grasp the concept, but to be able to track your enemy's move. Knowing when to shoot if you have a shotgun, and just landing most of your shots. That's just basically it. Moving on to the last tip, once you've understood and learned how to do those 4 tips, tip number 5 is landing in hot zones. Yeah, land in those hot zones, baby, because when you land in those hot zones, you're already you're putting yourself in tense situations. It's forcing your brain to think. It's forcing your muscle memory to work at it. And the more times you do this, the more times you get into those hot zones, get into those early fights, it doesn't matter if you lose. It's always a win because you're training for the next fight. Maybe in the next 50 fights, you're gonna eventually win them because you haven't changed your sensitivity. You understand the recoil patterns, you understand crosshair placement, and you know how to track your enemies. And then when you put that all together and you get in the hot zone, put yourself in that tense situation, you're already winning. It doesn't matter if you lost that fight, just get into another game. You're already eventually improving every single time you get into those situations. So that's basically it, guys. Those are those 5 tips for you. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning, I want to remind you guys that just be patient with yourself. Don't rush it. Be patient with also the process. And eventually, in maybe, let's say 3 weeks, if you put in the right amount of focus and practice, you're gonna be a top tier player. No doubt. You're gonna win your fights. You're gonna give your team the advantage. Get into those top 3s, top 4s, top 5s, even number 1. You know, so give yourself some time, grind out the game, enjoy it, and just have fun. Always remember to have fun. Thank you again, guys, for clicking on this video and watching my content. Share this with your friends if you think it's helpful to them as well, if they play Apex Legends. And also, don't be afraid to leave a comment down below if you disagree or if I've missed anything out. I mean, we're a community, so we're all helping each other out here. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!